Alrighty, so well, there's definitely a lot of controversy that is going on and a lot of negative lights that's been surrounding the MLS world. I'm still happy to say that it is officially match week and that MLS is going to be returning this week. And with the way that the first game between Inter Miami and RSL is going to kick off the 2024 MLS regular season in a couple of days, that means it's time to make prediction. And we start as always with the Eastern Conference, and then in the next video, I'll look at the Western Conference prediction and the standings that I predict that it's going to finish. Now, obviously, I know for sure that in about 7 months' time, when I look back at this video, yeah, I'm definitely going to get some of these wrong, if not most of these wrong, and that I do apologize. Whoever I pick near the top of the standing, especially the team that finishing first, usually I always get it wrong. Either it's from the Eastern Conference or in the Western Conference, but nevertheless, this is just my opinion, and again, I'll probably repeat this when I finish this video or about to finish this video. If you agree or disagree with where I pick your team in the standing, let me know in the comments below. But we start off in 15th position, and the team that I think is going to finish dead last in the East, and I think pretty much a lot of people will agree with this one. And I think even TFC fans will agree with this one that, yeah, it's going to be Toronto. That's going to finish dead last in the Eastern Conference. And you could argue that, in terms of a team that maybe are favorites of, unfortunately, winning the wooden spoon this year, it's going to be Toronto FC looking to repeat that. I mean, I've already mentioned this team is heading into a deep rebuild, and it just feels like this is a year where they're not only going through a hard reset, but they're trying to get rid of as many bad contracts as possible. And almost like it's kind of the beginning stage of this deep cleanup and this deep rebuild that they're going through, and hence that's why they haven't really make a lot of signing and only are still started to try to get rid of some of the bad contract that is going on around their team. But nevertheless, despite the fact that I know John Herman will try his best to motivate the team, and at least I know that this is a team that, as bad as this season is gonna go, that there's going to be players that's going to be fighting for their jobs, especially heading into next season itself. Still, I think this is a team that I think most people can agree that they're probably going to finish dead last and probably going to win the wooden spoon once again this year. Then we go into 14th. I gotta say it's gonna be Charlotte. So, for Charlotte, obviously, it hasn't been a great off season for them. Yes, I know they hired Dean Smith, which is kind of an interesting thing hire to this team, but there's just so much question to this Charlotte team, especially on the attacking front. It's good that they, of course, finally open a DP spot or open two DP spot and finally got rid of one of the worst DP contract in the league in Camille Josviak. But the problem is, Karol Świderski is also no longer on this team, and that they still have not found an answer in terms of replace him. I mean, there's just so much question with the Charlotte team, and it's kind of also unfortunate that Dean Smith, as much as I know he's going to be under pressure straight away because this is a Charlotte front office that doesn't really give their head coach a lot of time to get them success. I mean, he's kind of put in a tough spot where I do feel like Charlotte has definitely gotten worse compared to last season, and that unless if they don't decided to spend those DP spots to replace the number 10 that they lost this off season and their best attacker in Karol Świderski. This could be a very rough season for Charlotte, and could be a season that they could maybe even be on verge of competing with Toronto FC with the wooden spoon spot. And then moving on into 13th, it's going to be DC United. So again, as I mentioned before, for this DC team, it's kind of weird this season. I can't tell if they're going through a bit of a transitional period or they're going through a deep rebuild. It kind of feels like it's a mixture of both, where it's kind of a bit of a transitional period where they have signed some players to at least maybe get this team to play much better under Wayne Rooney, but at the same time, there's still a lot of question surround this team. There's question in terms of the defense, there's question in terms of the midfield, and on the attacking end. I mean, you don't know if Christian Benteke is going to continue to score 15 plus goals, and that they also have no number 10 in this team. So yeah, I think this is a team that It's probably not going to do well. I mean, I think that when you look at the Eastern Conference, and I said this throughout the off season, it's pretty clear what you know about each of these teams in the Eastern Conference, where you can definitely separate of the haves and the have-nots, and that these teams that is on the right category and are in the red mark, which is the teams that I predict not gonna make the playoffs, or most likely it's gonna be the have-nots and gonna be like the bottom feeder in the league. So yeah, again, unfortunately, DC is definitely one of that team because, again, with just how strong the Eastern Conference is once again this season, the team that they feel just look like lack way much quality to even teams that is going to be competing for playoff position in the Eastern Conference. Now, at number 12, I am going to say, you know what? I'm going to say Montreal. And the reason why I put Montreal really low, and I know Montreal fans are not going to be happy that I put them really low in the standings, despite the fact that, they got a new head coach. And I've already mentioned that I like the fact that they decided to bring in Lauren Courtois, that will bring in the system that they used to run under Wilfred Nancy. And I thought that's kind of the system that Montreal should have been running with, not what they did last season under Hernan Lasada. But still, there is a lot of question of the fact that yes, well, Lauren Courtois is gonna bring the system back and bring a relatively familiar system back to this team, at least for guys that were on this Wilfred Nancy Montreal side just a couple of years ago. There's no guarantee that it still would work out, and that again, I think there's also question in terms of the attacking end as well. In terms of that number 10 spot, they brought in a new number 10. Which we don't know if he's gonna do well. And then of course I know they definitely bought in former MVP Joseph Martinez, and that if this was a couple of years ago, that would be an absolute huge signing for Montreal. But unfortunately, in the year of 2024, and especially with Joseph Martinez, have really hit the wrong end of 30, and that he's never really recovered from being the peak Joseph Martinez that we saw ever since he suffered a torn ACL injury. Then you have question about this Montreal team, and that the other thing I will also say is that this is also a team that right here in this spot is kind of like where they usually finish, because for the past couple of years, if you just don't look at the incredible year that they had under Wilfred Nancy finishing in second place, they're always our team that is kind of like right in the thick of it near the end. They just don't have enough to get it done, either on decision day or heading into decision day, and eventually getting themselves eliminated and finish probably around like 11th, 10th, or 12th position, as is kind of the narrative for this Montreal side for the past couple of seasons. But then moving on into 11th, you know what? I'm gonna say Nashville. So, for Nashville, again, my big concern with Nashville is the fact that this, I feel like, could be finally the season where they might not make the playoffs or the very first time, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that I still have question on this attack. I mean, if Hani Mukhtar is not going to once again carry the weight of this team, then they have some really serious question on the attacking end. And I know, yes, they have brought in some attacking reinforcement. I mean, I like the signing of Tyler Boyd coming to this Nashville side, but I feel like it's not enough. And especially again, if no one is gonna carry the weight off of Hadi Mukhtar in the goal scoring form, this Nashville team could be in a rough season, similar to what we saw last year in the second half of the season, where yeah, they were just they were just completely collapse. And maybe part of that has to do with the heartbreaking loss that they had in the Leagues Cup final. I mean, we usually see with teams when they suffer a heartbreaking loss that in a big game like that, it can really not only damage them in terms of so close of winning that competition, but yet so far, but also it can definitely damage in terms of getting back into league play, as what we saw with Nashville. But again, as solid as the defense is for this Nashville SC team, I have a lot of question on the attack, and also I have a lot of question in terms of whether or not if Gary Smith will actually decide to evolve his tactics, because his tactics, it's been the same for the past couple of years, and the fact that teams have repeatedly figured out how to get around the tactics that Gary Smith has, and the fact that he doesn't evolve, it's no wonder why there are a lot of Nashville fans that have probably started to call for his heads, and maybe even will call for his heads if this team is going to slumber like like where I predict them to finish in 11th place. Now, in 10th position, and this is going to be a very controversial pick. This is going to get people mad. Yes, I have the balls to take Miami to not miss to miss out on the playoffs. And I know the comment section is going to be very mad at me, and a lot of people think that this is not a serious prediction if I pick Inter Miami a finish outside of the playoff position. But allow me to explain why I do think that Inter Miami might fall short of the playoffs. And there's multiple reasons. I mean, the biggest reason I think that I believe Inter Miami might not make it to the playoffs, it's the defense. The defense is really concerning, and I've seen it even throughout this whole preseason World Tour where that defense was absolutely atrocious. I mean, it just feel like they didn't really fix it, and even though they definitely made a signing of getting that player from Pumas, I think it's that Faria guy that they bought in. They still doesn't look anywhere near the level that they should be. And not to mention, they also just recently sell Gregory, which I thought he was probably their best defensive midfielder of this team. And you saw the loss of him really kind of affect that defense where they just don't have that safety blanket anymore, and teams are just able to easily bypass that midfield and able to score at will against a Inter Miami defense that at time it was non-existent last season. So as much as says you still have Messi there, and I think Messi is gonna have a great season, and the same goes for some of his friends like Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets, and even Luis Suarez in some hand. Although again, this is where I get to my second point of why maybe I think Inter Miami might not make it to the playoffs, and that of course is all those guys I mentioned are in their 30s, and there's no guarantee that Messi and all of his friends is going to be playing in the same team week in and week out. And we know that is going to be the case because Messi is going to be going to Copa America, and we already know in MLS this season, Copa America is not going to be pause the MLS season. So there's going to be games that Inter Miami will not have Messi there, and add to the fact that well, if Messi is not there, then who of course is going to be set up to do well for this team. Now, I was going to say Facundo Farias was going to be the case, but he's done for the season. And while they're definitely making that move to bring in Federico Redondo, which still that's a big question whether they can get that over the line. Again, just the fact that they're really relying on old players to be success, and we've seen it before in this league in the past where this is not MLS 2.0 anymore, where you can't just simply rely on old players to regularly get you to be in the top, and add to the fact that you have a shoddy defense, just like what we saw throughout the World Tour. And I know I've said before that I shouldn't take preseason resort as a big measuring point, but it's kind of hard to do when you look at Inter Miami playing so many of these preseason game, and especially how bad their defense is still be. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're going to be as good as what people are. And now this is also where I'm pretty sure everybody's gonna prove me wrong and basically said that yeah, this team is somehow gonna finish near the top of the standing, because I'm pretty sure MLS and pretty much even some of the replacement referee that is going to be in charge of their game is going to make sure that there's going to be calls that goes in their favorites, because they cannot let Inter Miami miss out on the playoffs and not let their golden goose miss out on probably the most important part of the season heading into October in the Eastern Conference playoffs. But that being said, now moving into number 9, as I explained a lot about Inter Miami and that I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a lot of hate of them putting them in 10th place. But at the ninth position, I'm going to say it's going to be the New York Red Bulls. I think the Red Bulls, their playoff streak is going to continue into the 15th season. I mean, I could have easily picked the Red Bulls to not finish very well, but every time I pick them to not miss out on the playoffs, they somehow still sneak it in, and I feel like that is going to be the same. I mean, I feel like for this season, obviously, I still have big question in terms of that number 9 spot. As much as I know they have made some good addition. I mean, bringing Emil Frostberg is definitely a huge game changer, but he can't just simply carry the team. And there's even question about even their other winger in Lewis Morgan. Yes, he is finally going to be healthy for this upcoming season, but how much is he going to be getting himself back to the quality of player that he was after suffering back-to-back long-term injury. And that, yeah, overall the attack is going to be something that's going to let this team down. I mean, the defense is definitely good for this Red Bulls team, but I do have question in terms of the attack, and that even with the addition of Emil Frostberg, I don't know if they have enough in terms of challenging being as one of the elite team in the Eastern Conference, and that knowing this has kind of been the case for the past couple of years. It feels like ninth place is just about the spot where I think the Red Bulls will finish. Now, in eighth position, I'm going to do this. Please do not let me down, Chicago. Please do not let me down. That the one time that I picked them to make it to the playoffs, and I believe last season did I also pick them to finish above the playoffs, and they once again did their old Chicago Fire kind of narrative of collapsing near the end of the season. Please don't do this, Chicago. Please finally live up to your expectation and finally make it to the playoffs for the first time since 2017. I mean, again, when you look at this team, the pieces are all there. Like you look at how they've played, and especially even in that one preseason game that I've seen against Minnesota, they look like a team that is ready to challenge for playoff position. And again, I know you shouldn't look at preseason result as a way to determine for this season, but when you look at this team, I mean, they look like they are set to make it get to the playoffs, and that I know that there are going to be at times where narrative is going to stay the same, where they've always somehow find boneheaded way to lose game, especially on the road. But surely this has to be the year that they finally end the curse. Surely that they spend like about 13 plus $1 million to bring Hugo Kiefer, and he is going to be the guy that will definitely leads the line, the number 9 spot. And surely the Jordan Shaqiri, even though he is starting to get older, he's going to have kind of a Hector Herrera kind of revival season and do well. And even the same goes for Brian Gutierrez too, who I really rated him to be the next big young player to really shine for the Chicago team. Surely this is a team that I think will make it to the playoffs. The curse has to end this season, in my opinion, of them finally making the playoffs for the first time since 2017. And then moving on into seventh position, I'm gonna put NYCFC. So I think this is right about the right spot for me, in my opinion, of NYCFC, where it feels like NYCFC, their season is kind of a little unpredictable. I mean, it could go either way, in a way where it could definitely go well if all their young players that they signed this off season, and even some of the youngsters they have in this team will shine, like what we saw in the latter part of last season, and them finishing near the top of the Eastern Conference and can really battle between some of the toughest opponent in the Eastern Conference, or the fact that those young players doesn't come true and that they could tumble themselves out of the playoff position. So yeah, in the case where it's kind of like there's a lot of unpredictability and it feels like it's almost kind of like a boom and bust situation that NYCFC, of course, are enduring. I feel like seventh place is a perfect position to put them right in the middle of the pack, because I will say that even if I get NYCFC prediction wrong, where they go have a disastrous career or a disastrous season, that is, I will really say that I did say that I put them only here because I think that if they have a pretty bad season and they don't achieve their expectation, they'll probably finish no worse than probably 11 or 12th place. But if they exceed their expectation, they can definitely climb into one of those spots. And again, it all depends if there's some of these youngs that will really develop to a point where we might see NYCFC back being a contender in the Eastern Conference. And then at number 6, I'm going to say it's New England. So for the Rams, I know I could have easily put them a little higher in the standings, and I won't be surprised that they could be higher in the standings itself. Obviously, I think they could be off to a bit of a slow start because some of their more important player on this team is still not back from that long-term injury. I mean, Dylan Barrero is not back officially with this team yet. The same goes for Brendan by itself, and not to mention they're involving in the Concacaf Champions Cup itself, which hopefully this time they're gonna not have a disastrous result in that competition that could really derail their season. The last time we saw them in the competition, but again, for New England, I think for them it's not about the regular season. They, along with a lot of these teams, that's kind of like an MLS Cup or bust kind of mode in the Eastern Conference. It's all about when you get to the playoffs. I mean, that's when you are going to really shine. Now, ideally, I would think that they would love to finish near the top of the standings and at least in the top four, so they can get at least another additional round where they have home field advantage. But obviously, with the team that New England currently has, and also knowing you have the pedigree of Caleb Porter instantly able to deliver success to a team in the first couple of seasons. Yeah, I think this is a team that, with the way that the window though is still wide open and they still have a lot of decent pieces. I mean, heck, they still have Carlos Hill on this team. I mean, he's probably considered one of the best number 10 in the league. This is a team that I think is going to compete, and not to mention the one big thing that they don't have to worry, unlike last season, the off the field the distraction that really was the reason why it derailed their season last year. But now moving into number five, I think Columbus. So again, I know some people and even some crew fans feel like I ranked them a little bit low, but again, a lot of that maybe has to do with them playing in the Concacaf Champions Cup, and not to mention every team is going to have a bit of a setback, and especially teams are going to start to find out how to play Wilfred Nazi system, and it's actually not that hard to figure out how to play against Wilfred Nazi system. I mean, as much as I know Wilfred Nazi love that kind of high octane kind of style, and because of the high end talent that he has on the attacking end, he's able to do so. The one thing that I will say that is still going to be a downfall for Wilfred Nancy and running this high octane kind of style is the fact that you're going to have your back line being very exposed. And while they do have a relatively good defense and it got better as the season goes along, again, if you're a team when you're facing against Columbus, as long as you're able to ride out the pressure and you're able to hit those long ball and go quickly on the transition to call out this Columbus Crew team, then all of a sudden you basically just figure out how to play against the Columbus Crew. So because of that, I do think that maybe they're going to have some share of games where they're going to lose out, and not to mention they're not a good road team. Even under Wilfred Nancy and in this MLS Cup run, they didn't really win many road games compared to when they're playing at home. So because of that, I think they're going to finish right around this spot, and that again, you got to also remember the last couple of times when they won MLS Cup. I think in 2020 they won't finish third, and then in just this previous season, didn't they finish in fourth place in the standings? No, I think they also finished third position. So it's kind of like right near the. I would say it's kind of like right near the top three kind of spot that they of course do well in the playoffs, but still, I feel like this season they might be going through a little bit of a regression, especially when teams are going to be able to find how they play, and not to mention if they're going to take the CONCACAF Champions Cup very seriously, and they're going to maybe punt some of these games away. And then moving on into fourth position, I'm gonna say it's gonna be the Philadelphia Union. So again, this is a team that, like New England, I don't think Union fans care where they finish in the standings. It's all about what happened in October, and especially this maybe be the last year that we're gonna see this main core with this team rolling into the playoffs. Yeah, again, this is where I think maybe Jim Curtin maybe dial down a little bit in the way that he's not gonna focus too much in terms of the regular season. I mean, yes, he still wants to get the team to do well, but he's going to make sure that they get hot in the right time so that they can finally win that MLS Cup that they've been looking to get for really the past couple of season, and especially with the way that this is really the last chance to do so. That Jim Curtin is going to try to save his players and save his resources and hope that this team gets hot at the right time. So if they get off to a bit of a slow start, I'm not going to be too worried about them. And not to mention, this is another team that's involved in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and you better believe that besides MLS Cup, that's another competition that Jim Curran wants to take seriously, especially how close they have been the last two times that they've been in this competition, including last season. So as a result, they could maybe suffer a bit of they'll finish right around kind of the same place. I almost said that they're gonna suffer a bit of a setback, but in reality, they won't suffer any setback because fourth position is basically the same position that they finished last year. And then in third place, I'm gonna say Orlando City. So again, Orlando is gonna be a very competitive team in my opinion. And again, they will definitely maybe will go on a bit of a run in the CONCACAF Champions Cup as well. Though again, the big problem for Orlando is that if they do win their matchup against Calgary, The next team they face is against Tigres. And as much as I know they want to get their revenge against Tigres, we have seen before Tigres is basically the overlord of MLS team. Like they've always find way to break the hearts of MLS team, whether if they're playing at home or on the road or even in the Leagues Cup as well. So yeah, if Orlando definitely get themselves out the CONCACAF Champions Cup, especially against Tigres, they can now focus mainly on the league itself, and that they do still have a lot good talented player on their team. Though again, it'll be interesting with the loss of Antonio Carlos, how much that loss will definitely impact the defense. I don't think it's going to impact too much on the defensive end. I mean, they already have a good defender in Rodrigo Schlegel slot in there. I feel like this is going to be very similar to when the Union lost Mark McKenzie to Europe, and then they immediately slot in Jacob Glesnes that spot, and it feels like the partnership between Elliott and Glesnes did not skip a beat, and I feel like this is going to be the same thing with Janssen and Schlegel in this back line for Orlando City. But other than that, the other good thing is they get Duncan McGuire back, although we don't know if he's going to be here at least till the end of the season. But also getting Luis Murier is going to be a big signing. And also, if they are gonna put Martino Ojeda, who I really thought that he had a good season, especially near the latter part of the season where he really turned up to be kind of that Mauricio Pereira replacement. And not to mention if Nico Ladero can score a couple of goals and pull in the string late in the game coming off the bench, this is an Orlando team that could be fearing and could finish just as well as they did last season. But at number two, I'm gonna say FC Cincinnati. So for FC Cincinnati, again, this is a team that even though they lost a couple of pieces. Well, for now it's Brandon Vasquez, but there's question that Barrial might be on his way out as soon as in the summer transfer window. But despite they lost these pieces, I mean they still have the reigning MVP in Lucho Acosta, and that when you also look at this team around. I mean, this is still a damn good team. I mean, this is a team that will I still think that out of all the good teams that is in the Eastern Conference, I feel like Cincinnati is going to be definitely one of those teams that's going to be considered the class of the league. Now, the reason why I didn't pick them to finish first is that they're going to be another team that's going to be in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and a team that maybe they'll go deep in that competition, and there's going to be times where they may be punting games away just to focus on that competition in general. But either way, I think this is a Cincinnati team that is going to definitely do well. I know that even though they want to win back-to-back supporter show, winning a supporter show is all great, and especially last season winning the first ever trophy, and that it complete a remarkable turnaround in just a span of 2 years of this team winning back-to-back wooden spoon to them being at the peak and being the best team in the league. That now the ultimate goal for Pat Nolan team, besides maybe even winning the CONCACAF Champions Cup, you have to win that MLS Cup. But at number one, and I apologize in advance to Atlanta fans that I picked them at number one. Because that number one spot seems to always be a bit of a curse because I have times where it's either in the East that I get it wrong or in the West I get it absolutely wrong in terms of the number one spot, and I have a feeling I might get this absolutely wrong. But the reason why I have a lot of faith over Atlanta United is the fact that again this team just the way that I look how this team is, it looks like a team very similar to 2018 and 2017 under Tata Martino, a team that is very fun to watch. It's very heavily attacking bases, and heck, they even have players on this team that's very similar to the 17 and 18 team. I mean, you have Thiago Almada, who I know that he might potentially be sold off. Maybe the next off season that is, because I'm pretty sure if Atlanta is going to be a really good team, they're not going to sold him in the summer transfer window, even though there's going to be bigger offer for him. He's kind of like that Miguel Almiron kind of player, and then you also have Sergio Yacamakis, kind of like that Joseph Martinez player of just being a lethal goal scorer. And not to mention, they also have upgraded the back line. Well, I say upgrade their back line. It is to be determined whether or not if Stian Gregerson is definitely considered to be an upgrade to Miles Robinson. But overall, when you look at this team, I mean, it is a really good team. And the other thing that is also key to this team is the fact that they have some leadership in this team as well. I mean, bringing Dax McCarty, I've said before, I think he's going to be very similar to that Jeff Lorenovitz kind of player, bringing the leadership to this Atlanta team to be able to get them being back, being the best team in the Eastern Conference, and that yeah, again the pieces feels like it's falling into right that Atlanta is going to be the best team in the Eastern Conference and could be a team that maybe even challenge for the supporter shield as well. I mean, Atlanta has never won the supporter shield if you believe that because in 2018, even though they were looking like they were on odds of winning the Supporter Shield. They actually involved in a two-horse race with the Red Bulls of winning the Supporter Shield, and unfortunately, the Red Bulls beat them on the final day, and even had to break the record for the most point back, or at least back then, to get the Supporter Shield. But they're definitely going to be gunning for that because of all the trophies that Atlanta has had. It's hard to believe Supporter Shield has been one trophy that they haven't won, and there could be a case that they could win it, especially with the way that as much as I'll talk about the West is definitely getting a little bit stronger compared to last season, the East is still the superior conference compared to both, and that the Supporter Shield winner is most likely going to be coming from the Eastern Conference again. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of my prediction of the Eastern Conference. And as always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these prediction, and also as always, if you don't agree with these prediction, and I know there are going to be some people that's not going to be agreeing with the prediction, especially of a certain team that I put there to not make it to the playoffs, to finish this season. Let me know in the comments below as always. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.